Hello, everyone, and we're back for episode number 3. And yes, we're back at it. I was thinking of something this week. I found it so hard to create the time for this. I almost allowed myself to roll with the excuses, and then I remembered I once read somewhere something about like the habits and stuff. Was someone who was dispelling the whole habits are formed in like 21 days or broken in 21 days or whatever. That person, I think, broke it down in 3 phases, something along the lines of the honeymoon phase and the phase where you have to fight through. The last one was second nature. So the idea of this is that the first phase of any habit is easy. The honeymoon phase, like you feel like this is too easy, I can do this all the time. So I feel like for the first 2 episodes I was going through that notion. It's just like it felt too easy. I felt too hyped to do it. So it's just like this is too easy, I can do this all the time, I can do this 3 times a week. It just felt that easy. And then this week I felt like I was going through phase 2. It was like, oh my days, I have to fight through this. Not that I ran out of ideas, but finding the time consistently and not like knowing that this is still like the developmental phases of this whole podcast. So yeah, that was a challenge. Right now I feel like I'm going through this phase 2. Just like I have to bloody cut through all of this chatter, the noise. Tired as I am because capitalism, you know what I mean? So yeah, right now fighting through it. Anyway, let's fight through this. And like I kept alluding to it on the previous episode, that chances were I would come back to failed states. I hate how this is in my head. Like sometimes something just gets stuck in my head. I can't shake the idea whether I want to or not. There are other things going on or not. I can always just rely on my brain to get fixated on one thing. Like I'm such an excitable adult. It's kind of insane. Like something gets stuck in my head. It's just like, I want to do that. I only think of that only over and over again. So it's kind of tense, but here we are, guys. So failed states, that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'd like to preface this and say, I said sometime that I'm not trying to be alarmist or do any sort of fear mongering, because that's not the idea of this. In as much as the name is a bit, what's the word? Doomsday, like saying we live in a sorry state. I am quite literally most hopeful and most confident that somehow, somewhere, there is something that we can do to change the situation before it gets really dire. So the fact that I'm looking at failed states doesn't mean that in any way I'm giving up that hope. I am still all the way in, all the way believing, all the way hopeful. That audacity of hope. So I still hope this, but let us talk about these failed states because I feel like it's an interesting thing to keep in mind of what may or may not await our republic should things get even worse than they are right now. Because I mean, come now, things are bad. So that's it. Okay, let me just be honest before I go on to this failed states episode, right? One of the biggest challenges, I feel like every week, this is my like weekly confessional. I always say something to you guys, but yeah, I trust you guys. We're mates here. We're mates. Anyway, one of the hardest challenges is that I have to find language that is PG rated to try and surmise my thoughts and make sure that I put across the message in a way that's not too wordy, but also succinct enough, also that conveys my feelings at the time, even though I may be thinking of something that would be succinct. They would just cut through it using one word to sum up 5 words, because that's what foul language does. So this is going to be a challenge for me. Not to say I'm very like vulgar or whatnot. I don't like thinking I'm a vulgar person, but admittedly, when you look at everything and look at how avoidable most of these things are, you just can't help but feel like using like aggressive language would most suit this thing. But yeah, I'll try to use as many of these fancy English words that I've been collecting or accumulating all these years. So, failed states. What is a failed state, really? According to Wikipedia, a failed state is a state that has lost its effective ability to govern its populace. A failed state maintains legal sovereignty but experiences a breakdown in political power, law enforcement, and civil society, leading to a state of near anarchy. Just there alone, you can tell that this is eerily close to what our country is going through right now. It's eerily similar to what's going on right now. Because when you talk about political power, I mean, come on, what says political power more than a province changing its premier or mayors? Some just go there for like a weekend special. Like when Brenda first spoke about weekend special, she wasn't talking about their politics, eh? So, yeah, political power. People are in office for like 2 days or 3 days, which is not insane. It is insane, I mean, but it's not new because we've done it before with the whole finance minister. Just like, okay, guys, we have this guy, no idea, no experience, but let's put him in, eh? Like, just give him a chance, guys. Come on, guys. Everyone deserves a chance. Let's make this guy a finance minister. After we're gonna like, okay, maybe that was a bit much, so let's take that back. So when things like that happen, you just look at it like, okay. Maybe we satisfied that first bit of this second sentence of the definition, political power, breakdown in political power. And then law enforcement. Oh my days, where do I even start with law enforcement? These are the same people who, I mean, come on. I mean, guys. Oh, law enforcement. People get arrested, right? A physical manual docket detailing what they were arrested for, etc. is written. No copy. Nothing. Just that one. And it's put down in a file. And then, surprisingly, this is the craziest bit for me. Surprisingly, no one thinks of the fact that these documents can just disappear. There's one thing put in one place where they are actual human beings. Do you think we should assume that it's things like that? You just look at it like, okay, our law enforcement is just I don't call it a joke, but it is something. I'm sure you can come up with your own explanations for what's going on. You know what I mean? Civil society. That's the last one from this bit. It says civil society. What says uncivilized more than us? Okay, maybe recently I saw France going bollocks with their protests and stuff, but we can never overstate just how much South Africans love a good riot. South Africans are willing any second to go to the street to ban everything from a school all the way to destroying a road. The same facilities that they need to use. You can never state just how much South Africans enjoy going that route. Yes, they'll give you this, oh no, but it's the only way to get the political elites' attention. I'm just like, is it though? Is it really? I'm not saying we should, But if we wanted to get the political elite's attention, why not go to like Lutuli House? No, I'm not saying do it. I'm saying if you wanted to, because they are the ones in charge, want to go to Lutuli House. No, let's go close down the union buildings then. No, let's close out Parliament. What if those? Just go grandstand in front of that one instead of the school that you need. Let's affect them directly. No, don't do it. I'm not inciting any violence. I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just saying if you want their attention, why not go straight to where they are instead of damaging a place that they don't even know or care about enough? Because a lot of these places is just like, if we are going to mess up our own situations, they don't care enough to come and fix it afterwards. So if well and truly you wanted to get their attention, why not go to that extent? Do you know what I mean? But that's the logic of South Africans. So when I was looking at this definition of a failed state, I was just like, ooh, this is eerily similar to what our country is. Again, like I said in the beginning, it's probably a bit alarmist, but just hear me out. I mean, in as much as we would like to just get together in a big hug, sing kumbaya and what have you, pretend like this is a blissful nation, la 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 la. At the end of the day is that there are cracks in our democracy and we have to address those cracks as soon as possible. You know what I mean? We have to. These are very evident and they have to be addressed as forcefully, if we have to, as forcefully and as immediately as possible. Some of these are more obvious than others, and some of them went from cracks and now are turning into big potholes. It just feels like some massive pothole somewhere on the N12 or whatever. That's how our democracy is starting to look like right now. I mean, the cracks showed a long time ago. Now I just feel like they're getting worse and worse by the day. And when you look at this, sometimes we do display literally the hallmarks of a failed state. I mean, if not all the way failed, we are well on our way to that level of being a failed state. So, what worries me the most more than anything is that we are in a weird middle ground when you look at us. Because when you look at it, on the one hand, we look like a very, very promising young democracy, so to speak. And then on the other hand, you look at it just like, okay, maybe we're not so young as we would like to think. Because if our democracy has been in play for about 3 decades now, you look at it like, okay, guys, maybe like by this point we should have gone through all of these teething problems and we should have understood ourselves a lot better. So you look at it like it's kind of a weird middle ground, you know. So it's this tricky place that we find ourselves in. Ourself as a nation, or maybe ourselves. What's the English there? Someone will correct me in the comments. But so we find ourselves in that middle ground. I mean, when you look at it, the promises there, everything. Yeah, every now and then I saw some bit of legislature that was passed recently, including the whole idea that someone can stand as an individual outside of a party to be elected as a president. I looked at it and I'm like, that's dope. And then we're still looking at a country where, oh my days. We're still looking at a country where people just go on about their lives, stealing hundreds of millions, just getting another chance to steal more hundreds of millions, and nothing happens to them. You know, just the vibes. So it's a middle place of sorts. It's kind of weird. So it's necessary for us to admit this, so we can do something about it. So that's it. Now. Again, guys, I feel like I have to re-emphasize this a lot more, that I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I'm not trying to freak you out. I'm just trying to point out that the signs are there. We can't ignore them. It's necessary and it's paramount for us to acknowledge them now, so we can all start doing something to prevent that possibility before it even becomes like an eventuality. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not the kind of person who says things like, "Oh, what will people say?" Abantu bazothini, as like Zulu people would say, or whatever the case. I'm not someone who thinks mostly on the lens of what people will say, what others will say. I usually want to look inside and address myself and see what exactly is wrong inside. So with that in mind, let's use us as a country. Because imagine we just recently, or not so recently, about 3 decades ago, became a sovereign state, a sovereign free state, if you will. Imagine 3 decades later already what's the word? We are showing those signs that it feels like we are a failed state. Now you just come across as like, guys. We fought this hard. Okay, not us, but our ancestors, including our elders who are still alive, fought so hard for us to have this freedom. Now, about 3 decades later, it's looking like kind of pointless. Like, I mean, what will people say about us? Think about this. Everyone like in the world, they were holding concerts all over the world, like in capacity stadium, singing "Free South Africa, Free South Africa." And then we got the freedom, and then we just doing nothing with it, doing absolutely jack squat with it. Like, what will people say about us? Are we not ashamed, like as a people? Are we not ashamed, like for this to be our brain, that after fighting so hard to get something so important, we're just taking it and shoving it up people's things? You know what I mean? Do you understand the ferocity that people fought against P.W. Botha and his boots? You know what I mean? They fought all that hard, and then now we're just in this place where it's just like vibes. No one really cares. Everyone is just willing to let this country burn to the ground as long as they are going to benefit. You know what I mean? What will people say about us, guys? Like, abantu bazothini, honestly, I feel like, yeah, we should all embrace the idea of a shameful situation. Bathina abantu ngathi, like, what will people say about us? You know what I mean? It's kind of insane. It's kind of insane that this is what we are fighting for, or we're fighting over so quickly. Like, we should still be in a corrective place where all of these things are just, everyone should still be rooting for the same team. Everyone should still be rowing in the same direction. But it's the total opposite of that. Everyone is just thinking, you know what, let me get rich or die trying on my own, though. Forget the rest of the country. You know what I mean? So those are the kind of things that worry me, honestly, when you think about it. I mean, that definition of a failed state, right? The people who are responsible for these ratings and whatnot, they're not strictly accurate. Nothing can ever be like entirely accurate, because one, a lot of these things are businesses to start with. Say, for instance, one of the many factors that play into your thing being regarded as a failed state is like these rating agencies. Those count amongst other things, right? The rating agencies by your so-called big three and others, your Moody's, S&P Global Ratings, and Fitch. Those three, I mean, they are by and large responsible for these categorizations, but they're not strictly accurate. They will never be accurate, for instance, for very simple reasons, because again, these are businesses that are responsible for billions of dollars, really. Their revenues is just like billions of dollars. So of course, where there is a business, there's an agenda being profit. So anywhere where there's profit, you cannot tell me there's 100% objectivity. There's going to be exploitation, there's going to be this and that. So I know that being regarded as a failed state or having a bad credit rating is not strictly the most accurate thing you can rely on, but it is part of the problem. All of those things, individually, they may not look like a big deal, but their importance can never be stated enough. Because whether we like it or not, globally, these businesses, for instance, I mentioned just these three. There are others, of course. There's I forgot the one that's based out in China, but these three are responsible for like 95% of the market. Now, look at an example of how I remember not long ago, Moody's marked us down in one of their ratings. It's just like they're like, okay guys, maybe don't go to South Africa. Like when Moody's says that, the big companies listen. When Moody's says that, the big companies listen, and we cannot afford to have this be our reflection as a country. This cannot be our brand, if you know what I mean. So Moody says, okay guys, South Africa is a bit reckless with their money. If you lend them money or if you want to go do any business with them, do it at your own risk. Now these other businesses, like your Mercedes-Benz or Apple or whatever company that was thinking of coming to South Africa, just like, okay, maybe if they are saying all of these things, it's just like, maybe we shouldn't go there, right? I mean, we don't have to, so maybe we shouldn't go there. So now you look at it like, okay guys, all right, all of these things, kind of insane, but we have to take them into consideration. Now, instead of that young, promising superpower in the making that we would have been, you look at it and just like, okay, now we're just going to look like any other country, possibly just a banana republic, just like we are one-dimensional, if you will. So these things, they do matter. Again, I'd like it to be known that I understand that these credit rating agency, for instance, being one of the things that are responsible, are not strictly accurate. Because, for instance, even in the global financial crisis of 2007, 2008, these rating companies marked up some of the companies that were responsible for their failure, like your Lehman Brothers and them. They marked them very positively and said very nice things about them before a total collapse. So I understand that they're not strictly accurate or strictly unbiased, but it matters. All of these things are connected. Nothing exists in a silo, and it's very important for all of us to do this, to understand that all of this is connected all the time. I mean, when you think about it, we're in a real pickle of a situation here. Honestly, it's kind of a weird place that we are in right now. It almost feels like we're in a taxi from Bree to, I don't know, somewhere like Boxburg or whatever the case. Like, we don't even know what's going on for the most part. And again, that's not a really good sign. Like, we don't know, like in this taxi, like they tell you things like vula ngathi uyavala or don't say ngathi uyapush it, like close it like you're opening, or push it like you are pulling. Like, what does that even mean? Like, where are we going? Are we coming or are we going right now? Like, there's a lot going on. Like, guys, like, gives us some clear direction. You know what I mean? It's a real pickle of a situation that we find ourselves in. So, honestly, sometimes I look at this, I'm just like, okay, guys, I don't know anymore. I like to think I'm above average intelligent, but sometimes you just look at it like, okay, guys, it's a real situation. Are we in a position that we can self-right? 100%. I feel like we are well within our rights. We can self-right. This boat has capsized somehow, somewhere, many times over. But I feel like we're still in a position where it can self-right. You know what I mean? I feel like with just enough of a push, we can, all of us, seeing as it has flipped us into the water, we are still right there. We can easily self-right this boat. You know what I mean? I just get that feeling. Anyway, okay. Just a second to think of something less stressful and less serious, so to speak. Okay, something entirely unrelated. I'm obsessed with symmetry. I think this is probably like at a level of obsession with symmetry, because guys, things just have to make sense conceptually. When you look at them, like they ought to make sense. So earlier this week I had a delivery. Earlier this week, it would have been Tuesday. I'm recording this on a Saturday. Earlier this week I had a delivery. So for argument's sake, let's say our address is number 10. So logically speaking, when you're at number 10, okay, when you're at number 1, I beg pardon. When you're at number 1 and you can see 2, somewhere down the line you should be very close to 10. Not these idiots who demarcated this place that I live in. It is such a hot mess. I remember one day complaining about it. Someone said to me I'm overreacting. The other one said it's a Pisces thing. Whatever. They mentioned that because they are Pisces, they also suffer from this, and whatever the logic behind this. The idea of things being not symmetrical, it drives me up the wall. Poor guy who had to make my delivery, he called me like 3 times. He's like, yo, I'm at number 2, but I can't see 10. The more I keep driving, I keep getting lost. I keep finding -2 and -5. In my mind, I'm thinking, who the hell demarcated this place? Like, what idiot looked at this and like, yeah, that's the version we're going with. Like, I was losing my mind. And he did the same when he had to pick up what he was delivering for me. He got lost so many times. Like, he literally drove past my place because he saw number 11 and then he thought, okay, 10 is going to be around the corner. Nope, not these idiots. I'm just like, who is this genius who did this? Like, why on earth would you do this to us? Because anyway, I said this was going to be something positive, but it is okay. I didn't say positive, actually. I said unrelated. I just wanted to blow off something for a second. Just like, why are you guys doing this? Actually, I should record a video of this, just showing you guys what I mean, because this is kind of insane. Like, you guys are driving me nuts. Anyway, don't do that, guys. Please, make sense as adults. Please don't try and vorvai us on purpose here. Don't make us demarcar here because you can. Honestly, guys. Anyway. This is actually supposed to be the part where we talk about positive things, ne? Kind of what? I don't know, like positive things, man. Like your name here, corner. This is where I should be talking about that, but here I am complaining. Okay, guys. Okay. I digress. Let me come back to my senses. Anyway. So, talking about failed states, right? Before we get to the stage of being a failure, there is what I saw, they call it a fragile state index. Now, in this fragile state index, this is more of it's like semi-hopeful, because here we're not just all out putting out negative energy out there onto people's ears. So on the fragile state index, there are like 3 big groupings. One of which was social indicators. Let me find the other one. Economic indicator, and political and military indicators. Now, under social indicators, we're talking about demographic pressures, refugees, whatever, and then under economic indicators, we're talking about uneven economic development and whatever, and then political and military, we're talking about state legitimacy, public services, blah blah blah. All in all, there is 12 of these indicators grouped into those three groupings. Now, I just look at maybe 2 or 3 of these as an example of the kind of things that we should look at. Under social indicators, for instance, there is a human flight and brain drain. Here, as I was reading up, I saw that this is to do with, people from that country fleeing to other countries. Maybe fleeing is not the right word, but more leaving the country, going to other places because they look at other places as being better suited for them. Like I saw a stat not long ago. I honestly should have put down these stats because I found it so interesting. It was talking about how a lot of chartered accountants, CASAs, South African Institute of Chartered Accountancy, a lot of them are actually not even bothering to stick around anymore. They get their qualifications, do their services or whatever the case, and then hucks over to other greener pastures. I mean, maybe not green pastures, because I saw a good number of them were going to the UK. So we can't really call the UK with their terrible weather greener pastures, but you know what I mean. So going to those joints like the UK and stuff. So that's one of the things that come into play. You look at it like, the fact that people don't even want to spend time anymore in their own countries. You look at it like, this is not strictly positive. This is not really good. It's one of those cracks that you should look at as a state. And then another one, under, say for instance, economic indicators, uneven economic development. Here I can say, for instance, you look at places like your big metropolitans. There, something is wrong today, 2 days, 3 days, done, fixed. Same thing in a township somewhere or village somewhere outside Malamulele. You look at it like, nope, something can go wrong. They do not give a toss. They don't care. No, like in these fancier places, a street light is broken, for 1 day it's fixed. These other villages, they've probably had budgets for tar roads, electricity, whatever the case. Nothing. They don't give a toss. So you look at it like, okay. We're not at a failure stage yet, but maybe we are a fragile state. You know what I mean? And then we come to political and military indicators. So when you talk about the one that I found interesting here, because I felt like it was more relatable for us, and again, maybe I'm cherry picking here and it might come across as me being biased and actively attacking those dimwits that are in power, but bear with me, this is a democracy of one, so I guess my agendas are the ones that can fly easily here. Anyway, under political and military indicators, I found factionalized elites. I'm like, this is so interesting, because when you talk about factionalized elites, you see factions inside the ruling political party. You see every political situation. You see in the ruling political party, there are factions. These people claim to be under one umbrella, but they are factions. They are factions. What guy who was in office for 9 years and did bugger all, and then there's a faction that supports this guy, and there's a faction that supports the guy from the Free State who wants to go in and cause even more damage on a much larger scale now, because he caused a whole lot of problems in the Free State. So you look at it like, okay. These people are fighting, and we are literally the grass that suffers here. The grass is suffering because people all are vying for power. So you look at it and like, okay, guys, this is kind of insane. I hate that every time I look at any doomsday scenario or any like really, really bad situation, I look at it, I'm like, I hate that somehow we are this describes us in a way. One way or another, you look at it like, okay, this describes us in a way, and this is not really good. So yeah, failed states. This is one of those things that I'm sure I will come back to. I'll focus on one thing in particular from this, because right now I felt like I was just cherry picking, going from here to there, trying to make everything make sense. But at the end of the day, there's a whole lot more to this situation, and when I was reading up on this, and when I was trying to formulate my own opinions, what really broke my heart was that, like I mentioned earlier, I know for a fact we have the ability to self-right. I know without a shadow of doubt that we can absolutely right our ship before it completely sinks. Because right now it just capsized, right? So just flip, everything is upside down, but it has the potential. We have the potential to just get up very quickly and push it up, and then everyone can get back on it, and we'll be on our merry way. So that I know I have no doubt in my mind that we are capable of that. So the thing is, when you look at that, right, it's just like the potential is there, the ability is there. Whether you like it or not, the ability is there. You see it in every single thing. The ability is there, the potential is there. And it's necessary for us. I felt like the sad part was that we're not doing it now when we still can. And it's going to get to a point where we have to, and we're not even in control of how we go through these things. Because one of the ways, right, to help us a failing state is obviously there's going to be people coming from outside, people who think they know best. There's going to be a lot of people who are coming into our country and trying to make their own rules to help us get out of the situation. And that sucks because, I mean, guys, we are adults now. We know that when a country says, right, South Africa, yay, we're coming to do business with you, it's not free. Everyone has an agenda. Everyone who may offer a hand is going to do so with the sole purpose of pissing off the other superpower. These so-called developed countries, when they do that, they're not doing it out of the kindness of their hearts. They're doing it because they have agendas. And when people have agendas at a scale this big, the results will be catastrophic. Everyone has an agenda. If we don't manage to rein ourselves in, we are opening ourselves up to these superpowers to come in and do as they wish. And that is a very dangerous place to be in. It is necessary for us, all of us, to self-right. You know what I mean? This is very important. It's insanely important for us to do that now, before we have no choice. Because all of these so-called institutions that look over the interests of everyone in the world, it's a lie. It's a damn facade. It's the interest of very few people. The whole idea that everyone is equal, it's a damn lie. So if we continue to fall apart and we don't call ourselves into order, we are opening ourselves up to the possibility of relinquishing our power. We are ceding control to people who are obviously going to advance their own interests at the expense of many, many South Africans. And that is a shame. I kind of like South Africa. Actually, why am I saying? Scratch that. I love it here. I mean, I've been to a couple of countries or whatever the case, but even when I've been to those ones, I'm just like, you know what? I see all of this, but South Africa, it's just a good mixture of everything, man. I look at it, I'm like, I love it there. I mean, there are other countries that I see and like, man, if we could get to that level, that would be so dope. But then I look at it mostly and like, you know what? At the end of the day, it's still South Africa. It's still us, man. It's like so uniquely us. There's so much beauty in our country that I look at. I'm like, I can't help it. I love it here. I mean, one of the things that I found interesting at work a couple of days ago, there's this guy, he's Pedi. He was talking to this other guy who's Zulu. And then I jumped into that conversation. Like, the three of us were speaking like 4 or 5 languages. No need for anyone to interpret for anyone, because we understand each other. Like, it's just so seamless. We just easily dipping in out of conversation in so many languages. No, like, everyone fully understand what we were talking about. It was so beautiful. I looked at it, like, I understand why people who are not South Africans complain so much about, let's say, our viral tweets and stuff. We're just like, why is it that you guys make jokes, but the funniest bits are always in your languages? I'm like, we can't help it. Our languages are so intertwined. It's part of it. Like, it's very normal for you to make a statement that contains 3 languages all the time. It doesn't matter what culture you are. Likely you are going to make a statement that dipped into at least 2 languages outside of English. And when you add English to that, you're just like, oh, you know what? I can understand why this is so confusing to you guys. But that's it. That's us, man. That's us. I was home. When was it? May? Yeah. When I was home in May, I had okra. I'm like, oh my days. Like, the most beautiful, most delicious green things. Semi-disgusting when you look at it, but beautiful to eat. Delicious and stuff. I look at it, I'm like, other countries, they don't even know what the hell this is. I'm like, so there's a lot of these things that I look at and I'm like, you know what? I love it here. I have no desire to really live here. I mean, sure, you look at it like it would be better for anyone really to go to a more developed, more enlightened place. But at the end of the day, just look at it like we could make our own place, reach that level, those levels that we aspire for. So honestly, I love it here. So it's a shame that not enough people are engaged in trying to right this ship, to self-correct now before we don't have a choice. So, alright guys, that's enough English for the day. I have used all the English I could think of right now. But I'm definitely going to come back to this 100%. This is one of those things that I know for a fact I'm going to come back to, because it's such a dense subject, and I just wanted us to have it somewhere in the backs of our heads moving forward. Anyway, episode number 3, done and dusted. Until the next episode, like, comment, subscribe, share. Thank you so much. I will continue to push, like I said, that right now. I feel like I'm on phase 2 of that habit formation thing. Like, I am on the fight through right now. I have to fight through the first two weeks or so. Like, I was just being driven by, like, I was on a high, because these things had been stuck on my chest and my heart, in my mind for the best part of a year. So now I'm calm from that feeling. Now I just have to continue to fight through. So I am excited, very excited, and here we are. Episode number 3, done and dusted. I will fight through this. I will make sure to be consistent. I said every week. I feel like I have to re-emphasize this over and over again to you guys, to hold myself accountable. That I said every week, and I'm going to do exactly that every single week, unless otherwise. But I will do my best to not give myself any excuses, but to make sure that I put out content every week, unless otherwise special circumstances. So, episode number 3, done and dusted. Goodbye.